Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. One question that I get asked with a high frequency and really persistently over the time is people asking the question, which cruiser line on the American tech tree should I take? And why? Which one is better? Of course, the answer is neither, or rather it depends, but there are definitely differences between these two. So let's go through these things, and I'll try to give you a bit of an idea how they play and what they do to help you with your decision which one should you grind first if you want to go that route. So up to tier 5 at the Omaha, the American tech tree cruiser line with the Phoenix and the Omaha has two torpedo light cruisers. So these things are somewhat comparable to other light cruisers at around this area in such that they are extremely lightly armored. They have a couple of guns all around and they have some torpedoes. But with tier 6, we start seeing a split. The Pensacola is a heavy cruiser, has no torpedoes, and 203mm guns, or 8-inch guns. The Dallas is a light cruiser and has 150mm or 152mm, or I think it's 6-inch guns, and also has no torpedoes. So either way, after tier 5, no more torpedoes on American cruisers. But both lines at some point both lines have secondary gun batteries of 5-inch or 127mm. So what's the difference between these two? Well, let's have a look at tier 8. And the Wichita and the Cleveland, because then we can start comparing a little bit. So here we've got the Cleveland. I'm picking tier 8 because this is for me the tier kind of where you start really feeling the difference between the two lines. So we got the Cleveland and the Wichita. So let's compare these two. And the first thing that stands out is that the Wichita has a rapid reload and has a defensive AA1, whereas the Cleveland has the defensive AA2, has 2 charges of sonar, 2 charges of radar. So defensive AA1 gives 75% on both in terms of damage. Defensive AA2 gives 100%, so double the damage. And the radar is a radar 1, so it's got a range of 7.2 kilometers. Now, radar, if you're not aware what it does, it spots enemy ships. Regardless if they are behind an island or if they are in a smoke. So it'll show all enemy ships within a range of 7.2 kilometers. The sonar does that as well, but within a range of 3.75 kilometers. But it also shows you torpedoes. The radar doesn't obviously. The sonar will also show you torpedoes. So that aside, how do they look in terms of everything else? So interestingly enough, the hulls look rather similar. So the Wichita has ever so slightly more hit points, but in terms of armor plating, they do look quite similar actually. As is typical for American ships, they have a very good fire and flooding resistance. The Cleveland is ever so slightly more maneuverable, but I think in the grand balance of things, they're pretty much equal on that as well. The speed is completely the same. The guns is where we can start seeing the difference. Now, the Cleveland, having 150mm guns, but has 12 of them, has a faster reload. And funnily enough, has a longer range as well than the Wichita, but obviously doesn't do the same amount of damage. So the Wichita with a 9-second base reload does 649 HE and 838 AP, which is sort of in the ballpark of what you would expect from heavy cruiser guns around this tier. 7% fire chance is pretty average as well. The Cleveland retains the poor fire chance of 4% only. I mean, I think even Soviet destroyers with the 130s have better fire chance than these things. But the guns are reasonably rapid loading, and both of them actually have a set of secondaries, whereas the Wichita has 8 single secondaries and the Cleveland has 6 twin secondaries. So the Cleveland actually has the upper hand here in terms of raw firepower towards the outside. When we're looking at the AA, the Cleveland kind of has here definitely the better one, and that is probably because of the dual purpose nature of things. And obviously with the defensive AA2, this doubles these values to almost 4 to 500 each. And that is definitely more than what you would get on the Wichita. That doesn't mean that the Wichita is a bad AA ship. And the opposite, it is a very, very good AA ship as well. It just doesn't have quite the same pure AA focus as you have on the light cruisers. Concealment-wise, the Wichita is slightly better. So where does this lead? Let's take 2 other ships. Let's include the tier 10 ships. So let's take the Worcester. And let's take the Des Moines, so we can compare these 2. So we're looking at these 2. We're seeing that Worcester is on a defensive AA3. We've talked about this in reviews and everything, and obviously has the upper hand in terms of anti-air, being a pure AA ship, and has a radar 2, which has a range of 8.1 kilometers. The Des Moines doesn't get a sonar, only gets a single charge of the radar, but has the rapid reload 2 and has a reasonable AA as well. And once again, we see that the difference in hull really is just in a slightly higher number of hit points, but it isn't grand. So don't let the light cruiser, heavy cruiser designation confuse you. They're both cruisers. And the light and heavy is referring to the gun caliber, not to the armor plating or anything like that. And the Worcester has the upper hand in terms of maneuverability here, but not by much, once again. And the Worcester, once again, having the longer range on the guns, having the faster base reload. But the Des Moines guns are not something you joke about. Now, the Worcester obviously has 12 of them, whereas the Des Moines only get 9. Worcester doesn't get any secondaries, Des Moines does, but in tier 10, it doesn't matter all that much. And AA-wise, Worcester's AA range obviously is murderous, but again, Des Moines is no slouch, especially on the small caliber AA. She also gets the 3-kilometer range, so a Des Moines with active defensive AA is perfectly capable of wiping out pretty much all planes coming at her. So what is then the big difference between the 2? Well, the big difference is in how you play these ships. And the priority, there are 2 factors really. Given that armor, health, hull, maneuverability are reasonably similar, the big difference is A, in the guns, and B, in the utility. Because on the light cruisers, you get radar and sonar. The heavy cruisers are more damage output concentrated. Also, if you look at the guns, the light cruisers tend to have a balanced gun layout. So, for example, the Cleveland has 2 turrets forward and 2 turrets aft, whereas the Wichita has 2 turrets forward and 1 turret aft. That means that the Wichita can bring 2/3 of her firepower to bear, being completely bow in, whereas the Cleveland can only get half of her firepower going forward. Also, the gun arcs. The shells on the light cruisers are extremely slow. These 150mm shells. I think that's what you have to pay for the ranges that you get. This. They hit reasonably hard, and don't underestimate the armor piercing on the light cruisers. The armor piercing is very good, but they are very slow. So hitting a maneuvering target like a destroyer at long range is difficult. Whereas on the Wichita, it's not quite as bad. But playstyle wise, that means the heavy, if you have to summarize it, the heavy cruiser, both of them are support cruisers. Both of them shine in enabling your team to win. They are not lone wolf damage dealers. Although the heavy cruisers are more geared towards damage output and the light and domination, and the light cruisers are more geared towards supporting your team and making tactical plays and being at the right place in the right time. The light cruisers are extremely terrifying for destroyers. So if you look at this on the Cleveland, you have a 7.2 kilometer radar, which means that if you are getting into a position at a capture circle and a destroyer is unlucky enough to be within 7.2 kilometers of a Cleveland and smokes up, you then have the radar to spot him in smoke and the sonar to see his torpedoes coming. So that can be a very terrifying prospect. Likewise, they are very good at just lending AA support. But yet, once again, the difference here is that the heavy cruisers have a high burst damage output, especially the armor piercing against enemy cruisers can be quite devastating. And at higher tiers, even at close ranges, even against battleships. So if you're facing an Iowa in a Des Moines at close to mid-range, which is not usually something you do, but if it happens, the armor piercing can completely wreck this thing. And if we're talking about light cruisers, well, I always used to say a Des Moines has to respect a Worcester at long range, but the Worcester has to respect the Des Moines at close range. So a kiting Worcester is probably going to burn down a Des Moines or just wear down a Des Moines from long range, whereas if they are getting at close to mid range, the Des Moines burst damage can absolutely wreck light cruisers very, very quickly, and destroyers and battleships for that matter. The other thing that we need to talk about with the guns is the gun elevation. Because having the slow shells and the high gun elevation enables the light cruiser line to often sit unspotted behind islands. And the spotting mechanics work such that each ship has a spotting point. And I think it's the highest point in the ship. So as long as you have that bit of ship behind an island, even if the rest of your ship pokes out, you will not be spotted unless somebody gets angles and gets vision on you. So you can place yourself strategically behind islands and shoot over islands in light cruisers. The heavy cruisers don't really do that. With a heavy cruiser, the positioning would be next to an island, bow in, and in and thus being in a more defensive position, because you do have to, you're being in a cruiser, you do have to watch out for battleship fire coming in. So if you play in a light cruiser, mostly you'd play less aggressively than in a heavy cruiser. I mean, you can, but if you play a Cleveland aggressively, you will be shut down very, very quickly. This is not where she shines. She's not a burst damage output dealer. She's a support ship. A Cleveland is a ship in which you hunt destroyers, in which you lend AA support, and in which you try to do things tactically that assist your team. So oftentimes, a basic rule of thumb for Cleveland play is try not to get into the capture circles if it's like a domination map. Like the baseline of the capture circles is about as far as you want to go. You want to be just close enough to the destroyers that you can hit them reliably with armor piercing, and because shooting at destroyers at long range is no fun because of the shell hang time. And that you can use your full utility. So you can do things like cap rushes with friendly destroyers and do AA defense, but then get into defensive positions. Don't run. Don't sail out in the open into the cap. Always mind your island's cover. Whereas a Wichita, for example, you would probably play more aggressively, and you would once again find yourself island cover if possible, but you would be next to the island, not behind it, and you can. A well-positioned American heavy cruiser is pretty difficult to dislodge. So like a Des Moines that sits next to an island and is not outflanked can be taking quite a while to get out of that position, because you can back off to avoid battleship fire, and you have a reasonable amount of armor and hit points. So they can play quite defensively around these more aggressive positions, whereas the light cruisers are more about mobile play, where you zip around. You need more situational awareness for the light cruisers. Okay, I'll show you two games. Doesn't matter if we're winning or losing, that's not the point here. It's about showing kind of what these ships are capable of, and how you kind of play them. Right, in the first battle, I think we're top tier. Yeah, we're up against the Shokaku, Vladivostok, North Carolina, Gneisenau, enemy Wichita, a Miyoko, and a Brooklyn. So no destroyers actually in this game, and we're playing base capture on Aurora. There is one destroyer, but it's on our side, not on the enemy side. So something like Aurora, yeah, you kind of would start off. Depending on which side you're spawning. Now I'm spawning on the left. If I was spawning on the right, I could take a defensive position next to one of the islands, but I am spawning on the left. So what I want to do here is I don't want to rush forward, but I want to give AA cover and stay with my team right now. I'm switching to the high explosive in case I see battleships first. Long range battleship fire targeting high explosive. Close range destroyers, also high explosive. Long range destroyers, armor piercing. and cruisers generally armor piercing. So the carrier is coming my way. There's the friendly battleship row. So I'm just going to try and get myself underneath these airplanes and do as much damage as I can to them as possible. So there they come. AA guns ready, and we've got the defensive AA up. So once they are coming within the close range AA, that's when they start. When they start opening up and really shredding. So now I'm just going to try and dodge through these torpedoes as much as possible. These torpedoes didn't activate, or one of them did, and I think I'm going to take another one, but I am getting slapped in the side here by one of the battleships. So that's unfortunately not something you can avoid. So now we are playing open water, but we have taken down 5 airplanes and probably taught the carrier the error of his ways. And the friendly carrier has also given fighter support, so I don't think he's going to actually see any more of these planes. Now, in a heavy cruiser, even in open water, you can kind of play this position. So I am just getting in range of that North Carolina and then starting opening up with the high explosive, but now I'm stopping. I want to be at max range, I want to be bow in, I want to set fires as much as possible, but I don't want to get too close, and I do have to watch my sides here if I am getting shot at by other things. So obviously they start opening up at me, and that's probably the Brooklyn that fires armor piercing at this range. It looks like the North Carolina is not. But they are backing off, so I am actually in front of my battleship because of the range. But yeah, I do need to watch out that, because there's a second battleship over there. Yep, there's the Gneisenau. Now the Gneisenau comes under air attack and doesn't necessarily look like he's going to shoot at me, but I'm still careful. I'm still not giving broadside, and oh, what do you know? The Gneisenau is actually shooting at me. So I am taking fire from the Gneisenau. That's why I didn't go broadside, but just bow in again. And yeah, just defend this position. So right now we've got Gneisenau, North Carolina, and the Brooklyn on this side. So let's see if we can... It looks like our destroyer figures he's going to go the long way around. And I'm already on my second heal here, so I cannot maintain this forever. It would be great to have a bit more support on this side, but we'll make do, we'll make do. Okay, so then there's the North Carolina again. So once again, same story. Max range, a bow in, guns on target, and a fire. He insta-damacons, but I think I'm going to get a second fire because he is going to go behind an island here. And there's the Brooklyn. So Brooklyn comes out forward, so I am getting ready to switch over to the armor piercing. Rapid reload up, and just to get the reload in. And yeah, I'm not necessarily interested in setting fires on this thing. I am not in secondary range. Now, again, you can't underestimate these things. So you can't just sail broadside on, but I am just just angling in enough such that I can get my my guns to bear. And yeah, you can take, with these guns, you can take a lot of health out of something like a Brooklyn very, very quickly. So if I was able to get a little bit closer, I might have been able to citadel him, but I do have to watch out because there's yet another battleship behind that island there. So I do have to back off because if I get too close, right now it's just about chasing the Brooklyn away. And we have the North Carolina on the left, who's somewhere behind the islands. So we are going back to the high explosive. Brooklyn has been chased off without much loss of health on our side. There's another Gneisenau, and yeah, there's that North Carolina. So I do have to be then very, very careful that I am not giving broadside to anyone. Now, unfortunately, the problem here is I have to give broadside to someone. So I am going to try and actually get back here because I am too exposed in this position. We have lost one cruiser, enemy teams lost one cruiser. No, we've lost one battleship, sorry. So they are ahead on points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and help that Nagato here, dealing with the North Carolina. So I am going to get a little bit closer. I just don't want to be blapped on in the side if I can avoid it. I'm not sure he's shooting at me, so I'm going to take a risk here because he is going behind the island, and now he shouldn't be able to shoot at me. Yeah, most of his shots went into the island, so just the ones that got through, and I think these just penetrated the superstructure. So now I'm kiting away. This is something you can do as well in these ships. Because I want the Nagato to tank for me. That's a double fire on the North Carolina. He's going to damacon that, yep. And there we spot him again. Rapid reload up. And we are going to... Yeah, he's still shooting at me. Okay. Nagato, if you could help, that would be grand, I think. Like, you know, shoot at the battleship right there. That would be awesome. But yeah, we can kite away to open up the distance, and now he's switched targets, so now we can turn around again. We've got one permafire going, and just, you know, try to burn this thing down. Yeah, the North Carolina has switched targets at this point, so I can perform this turn more safely, and we are running out of time, but we're still ahead on points. The enemy Wichita has taken out our Lexington. What has happened on the other flank? I don't know. I've got North Carolina problems. Yeah, the Mayhem is dead, unsurprisingly. Whenever you see a destroyer going on the side of the map, going all the way around, yeah, you're not counting that one in. Okay, that's a double fire. Either his damage con is on cooldown or he can't. That's a triple fire. But note that once again, I am going bow in. Yeah, the North Carolina takes out the Nagato. I don't know if the Nagato went AFK, but we are burning him down. Now he goes behind the island, but we might be able to catch him still. Yep, we got him. Okay. So we've got the North Carolina. Unfortunately, something else has been killed in the meantime. I can't kill them fast enough, really, can I? And it's just me and the Bayar left. So at this point, I think we have lost, unless we can catch something very, very quickly. Yeah, so this is sort of how you would play a heavy cruiser. Just mind your angles, go bow in. But if you are having the possibility of just going bow in, you can definitely, even in open water, go up against against battleships. And I'm just firing my guns here to see if I can get spotted. Yeah, I think that's the Brooklyn back there that I didn't have a chance to chase down. Yeah, so unfortunately, the battle is over. There's not much we can do anymore. But you know, we've done what we could, and we've done 74,000 points of damage. Damage dealers, that they definitely are, and they are pretty capable in that regard. So, what if we play a light cruiser? Well, let's take the Cleveland out for a spin. And once again, I think we're in a tier 8 battle. So there are two tier 7s on the enemy team. We got a Bismarck, a double Bismarck actually, Nagato, Shapayev, Takao, Lightning, and Minsk. And we're playing Epicenter and Frozen Shelter. So different mindset, right? We are not going to be defending a position or going aggressive. We are going to try and see if we can get ourselves into a position where we can both threaten the enemy destroyers out of the central capture circle and take other things under fire. Fortunately, Frozen Shelter has a relatively decent amount of islands, especially around the center cap, so we can play a little bit more aggressively. But generally, I would try to position somewhere between the outer and the middle ring and get into a defensive position there. Depending where the rest of my team goes. I can also go wide, but you don't want to be too far away from the destroyers because you can't hit them at range. I am switching the guns over to armor piercing because I am expecting to be shooting at destroyers first and foremost. So we don't have to necessarily kill them, but oftentimes just the sheer presence of an American light cruiser, given that if the destroyer captains know what these things are capable of, can be enough to just shoo a destroyer out of somewhere. So you don't necessarily need to outright kill these guys. But of course, it somewhat depends on our destroyers to actually get up the central capture circle. So we're going to start with this island here. Now this is an island we cannot lob over because it's too tall, but it has kind of a little bit of a ledge at the front, and we can get ourselves into a defensive position here. This is the same positioning you would take in a heavy cruiser to start with, but I'm just starting out because I want to see where the destroyers are. So the enemy destroyers are in the capture circle, and yeah, there's the Minsk. So let's make our presence known. And yeah, the Minsk now knows that there's a Cleveland over here. Now, of course, at this range, I'm going to have a hard time actually hitting them. But I don't know yet where the battleships are positioned, so I don't want to go too far forward. And the Minsk has conveniently lagged, so my shots are actually hitting, because I don't think I was leaning enough. Yeah, he seems to have lag problems. But it looks like both of these guys are now actually vacating the center cap. They have taken it, and it looks like the friendly destroyers have no interest in this to go there. The Kagero obviously is not necessarily suited to these things. I know where the battleships are, and I think I've got enough island cover that I can make a move. So I am now rushing in and taking the Lightning under fire. There's a smoke. I'm not sure if that was from the Lightning or from our friendly Kagero, but The Lightning is definitely not paying attention to the Cleveland right next to him, and that is not going to go well for him. I've got the Hydra running, but the Lightning is now very dead. I get shots coming in, I think it's from the Takao. But I'm going to try and grab the center cup. As you can see, I'm unspotted. That doesn't mean the Takao can't blind fire me. But as long as there's nothing there, now he can see me because I went too far over the island. There's the Minsk back again as well, so I am kind of playing a little bit too far forward. I don't like being this far forward. Now obviously you don't have torpedoes, so you do have to somewhat be careful about being rushed by enemy ships. And look at the sheer amount of fire coming in. Now I just want to get the capture circle and then I'm going to be right out of here, because this is not as far forward as I like being in a Cleveland, but if the destroyers aren't doing it, then you know, you're going to have to. So in these sort of positions, you do go bow in and just defensive until people stop shooting at you. Or you can get some hard cover between yourselves and the enemy team. But we have the center cup. The enemy Takao has also taken a massive beating. So now it's over to the high explosive. And see if I can get myself into a position where I'm not spotted. I think it's the Minsk actually spotting me, because I can't see any one of these, which is very unfortunate, because that means I am actually getting shot at by all these guys over there. But you see I can, yeah, there's the Minsk. You see I can lob over the island. Now, because the Minsk is spotting me, this actually is more problematic for me than the Minsk torpedoing me or something. So now everybody's shooting still at me, so I am going to have to try and do something about this and get out of here, because yeah, I am taking fire from that Russian cruiser over there. I am taking fire from all the battleships. The Takao is still alive. So yeah, we've overstayed our welcome. So it's time to leave and kite away, set fires on the Nagato, and yeah, just try to avoid the sheer amount of incoming unhappiness that's, because all the battleships are nowhere to be seen here, even though the destroyers are dead. So obviously it's up to the cruisers to make sure that they get the center cut. And I am getting out there alive, but I think I've done enough about now. So it's about time to leave, grab some more capture circles while we're at it. No one's threatening the center cup, and give the enemy something else to shoot at. Like, I don't know, that North Carolina over there who's sitting a broadside onto everybody. You be shot at for now, for a change. So I can recover some hit points, and that's a very confusingly named North Carolina. And I can just be more in the position that I want to be. Now, we are equal on kills, because I haven't been able to kill the Minsk yet, but it also doesn't look like the Minsk is actually interested in getting the capture circles. So for now, I can just hang around in the outer ring at long range and get myself... The Shores has taken up the mantle of going central. There's no really need for that, I think, because... the Minsk isn't threatening it, so why bother? But he is getting himself into a very dangerous position, because there are battleships on his left. So we're trying to focus on the Bismarck. Bismarck Damocon's a single fire, so now we're going to try and set fires on the Bismarck. 4% fire chance, not great. Don't expect to burn down everything in range very easily, but you know, it is what it is. And since the Bismarck isn't shooting at me, and the other battleships have a better target in the Shores, that means I can be a little bit more generous with my broadside, but generally you do have to watch your angles. Okay, the Shores is dead, which means now they have nothing better to shoot at, which means now I do need to get the heck out of here and not give broadside to these battleships back there. I'm not sure what the Bismarck's going to be shooting at. I have no idea where that Minsk went, but yes, I am definitely taking fire at this point, so it's time to hit the rudder hard while maintaining fire on the Bismarck. See if we can get this guy worn down. And I am out of heals. I'm down to 9,000 hit points. And everyone's still trying to kill me, but we've got the Bismarck killed, and I wiggle the ship. Now the Minsk is in the capture circle, but it's way too late. A day late and a dollar short, as they say. So, yeah, and the Amagi has actually killed the Minsk, so that's not going to happen. But now it's pretty much a foregone conclusion with 36 seconds left, so it's just a matter of, you know, not getting killed, not losing points for the team, and doing some more damage. So this is sort of, I haven't really had to use the radar and the sonar very much, but if any of these destroyers had been smoking up, or would have tried to, you know, do something about me, do something funky, then I would have been able to, at that range, obviously, spot them inside their smoke, plus see their torpedoes coming, So that would have been complete death by light cruiser for any destroyers that get funny ideas. And other than that, if you've got battleships to shoot at, make sure you get some hard cover behind you in them, because you can often shoot over the cover. But the biggest difference for me is the mindset. The mindset is not to do as much damage as possible. The mindset is to play smart. Make use of your consumables. Be aware of where your team is and where you need to be. And don't get too aggressive, but preserve yourself as much as you can and be useful to your team. Hunt destroyers, find positions that you can work with. With the heavy cruisers, it's a more aggressive sort of playstyle, more focused on doing large amounts of damage. Which one is better? I don't think there is a better one. I think they are just different. I would say the heavy cruiser line is probably somewhat easier to play because of the at least maybe up to like tier 9. Des Moines in tier 10 can get tricky if you haven't learned yet how to, you know, watch your flanks and get into island cover. But I think the overall cognitive load on the heavy cruisers is less because you don't have to have the same amount of map awareness that you do have to have in the light cruisers to be successful. At the same time, you don't have the same amount of utility when it comes to dealing with destroyers. So I like both lines. I think they're both great. They're both very, very good ships. And yeah. So hopefully this helped you a little bit in figuring out for yourself which one you would like to try first and which one you would like to play. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.